Thanks everyone for turning up today. It's very good of you. I hope you learned something, or I hope you take away what you need, and maybe something you didn't know you needed, but it'll be information anyway. So this is obviously from JGA, the Town Planning Assistant Apprenticeship, and it's an information sharing session about that apprenticeship. My name is Janet Court. I'm the programme lead, and I'm also a tutor and skills coach for this this apprenticeship. I do others as well. So we work on one or two of the apprenticeships very often. So welcome to JGA if you've not met us before. And the way that this works is that this is being recorded, and we're just talking about, and the recording will be available how. I'll leave my colleagues to sort that one out with you. But this, I've got a couple of colleagues here. I can see you online. They will answer the questions I can't answer, particularly to do with things like sales and engagement. All the techie stuff, they can answer that. Okay, so we will kick off, I think, here. So it won't be death by PowerPoint, I promise. There'll be a few PowerPoints, but not death by it. So we're trying to cover this as an agenda today, is that things like, well, if you don't know what an apprenticeship standard even is, it might be the first time you've come across one, I don't know. But then looking at the Town Planning Assistant Apprenticeship, which is obviously the name of this apprenticeship, looking at maybe things about, well, why now? Why are you looking for training for town planning assistants, and who or where are these people who could be trained? Then we'll have a quick look at the curriculum and the apprenticeship journey, how apprentices are assessed finally, and also employer responsibilities. We do have a Q&A at the end. There's a Q&A, I believe, it's like there's chat and there's Q&A. You might find it across, probably across the top of your screen. But please, if you have a burning question that I haven't picked up from anywhere, either chat or Q&A, please just raise a hand. I think you can do that one as well on the raise a hand on the top there. Just ask me a question. I'm not saying save everything to the end, please don't. If you want to ask something, please ask it. Okay, so I'll start off with what's an apprenticeship standard if you've not come across one before. Well, these are nationally recognised government approved training programmes, and they're usually designed by trailblazer groups of professionals and employers. And that's the point. They're not just academic, not just, oh, let's design a course. These are each organisation, and certainly for the planning one, it's the RTPI, the Royal Town Planning Institute. They got together a group of professionals and employers, and that could be local authority, civil service, and private sector employers, and said, what is it that you need in town planning? What do you need? So that's how it starts. So that's why it's written the way it is, because it's said to be the need. That's the need that you individually have. So it looks at the standard, we call it the apprenticeship standard. It will detail the duties and specific knowledge, skills and behaviours, known as KSBs, that learners are expected to develop and evidence. This is some of the difference, if you've not come across an apprenticeship before, is that we're looking for evidence that they can do these things. So it isn't just a pure knowledge, which often is what university courses or college courses may be, not on this apprenticeship, but it was, as soon as apprenticeship is mentioned, it works on a couple of layers. So they come out knowing stuff, but also they've got evidence that they can do stuff, and that's how useful they are then to the employer. So they then don't have to be separately taught how to put knowledge into practice. Okay, so the town planning apprenticeship. So that's what obviously we're talking about. This work includes both office-based work and site visits. Town planning assistants need to be willing and able to travel to site visits. Now these are what you're reading here. These are extracts from the RTPI. It's part of the standard, and this is what was developed by the trailblazing group. So these are requirements. If you're hiring for somebody to come in as a town planning assistant, this is what they're going to have to do. If you have somebody already employed, then again, this is where you might have to extend a role. Town planning assistants will manage a caseload of planning applications under supervision and support chartered town planners to deliver projects. There could be also an employee in this occupation will be responsible for their own work, and they're expected to be. So they're expected to manage their workload to set deadlines and work in accordance with health and safety and environmental considerations. So as I said, this is what's come from the Trailblazing group. This is what essentially, in a nutshell, is what a planning assistant is. Now, when we talk there about the support to chartered town planners, they don't have to be necessarily managed by a chartered town planner, but they need to be, there needs to be somebody in the environment, in their environs, who is a chartered town planner, because they need to be able to verify that the work that they're doing is the standard of a town plan for a town planning assistant. So when we talked about there about, as I said, start, if you are employing somebody, this is the kind of thing that you're looking for. If it's somebody who said, well, they're already employed, that's great. And what we list here does not need to be their current job role. But the question is, could it be incorporated within their job role? That's the key thing. If their current role is office-based, then they must have access to site visits in order to deliver the skills, the evidence of the skills that they're going to be required. This can be done through shadowing, but they also must have their own caseload of work. And this is why you need, because this is them working in your employ, that's why they need to be managed at some point or mentored by a chartered town planner. Somebody has to be there to say this is the level of work that we need. Now the apprentice will need all of these to be able to acquire and demonstrate the skills through practice in the workplace. As I said at the start, if you've not come across apprenticeships before, this is the difference between learning pure knowledge to actually, okay, you've got the knowledge, now show me you can do it. Not tell me you might be able to do it, it's show me you have done it, and here it is, here's the evidence of a skill. Okay. When we look at it, okay, so we've got the Town Planning Assistant Apprenticeship, as we know, it's level 4, JGA style. Well, as you know, we are JGA. What's different about us? Well, we're the only training provider to offer this apprenticeship wholly online. There is one more provider, Chichester College, and they run a hybrid delivery model, which is, I think, 1 day a week online plus face-to-face in the college. But we don't. We run all of our training for all of our apprenticeships wholly online. Our timetable is for 18 months on programme. And assessments, which is you come across this. You can play apprenticeship bingo, word bingo. By the time we've finished, there's keywords. If you've not used to apprenticeships, there are keywords that you'll pick up as we go along. Assessment is at the end. It used to be called endpoint assessment, now called apprenticeship assessment. But anyway, that has to happen, and that's said to be. And the phrase they use is usually 6 months. Experience tells us with any other endpoint assessor or apprenticeship assessment organisation we've ever worked with, it's not that long. So we would say, let's say the word usually. You have to allow, as an employer, allow that might happen for any given reason. But generally we would say around about 3 months. But we don't control the endpoint assessment at all. The assessment at the end, that's down to it's an organisation called TQ UK. They're the only assessors for this apprenticeship in the country. So anyway, so the timetable that we set, if we say 18 months on programme, we'll look a bit later about what does that mean. But then there's 2 separate elements. There's the on programme and then there's the assessment at the end. So the programme consists of 8 modules, and this apprenticeship, the apprenticeship assessment is known. We run some preparation seminars because it would be hugely unfair to say, well, there's the course and off you go into assessment, and we're not going to tell you what it looks like and what you have to do. No, we prepare all of our learners to succeed. We're invested in their success. It's not just get them through quickly. None of that. We're with them all the way, and we are invested that they do succeed. And that's probably why we have, as JGA, we have a very high level of success across all our apprenticeships, and usually at distinction level in many of our other apprenticeships. So we prepare the learner and we help them just to feel prepared for their assessment. These the modules and the apprenticeship assessment prep seminars usually run for 3.5 hours. And there'll be around 19 of those in total across the 18 months. But there'll also be 3 2-hour roundtable workshops. So the programme modules, that is about, you probably, yeah, you just said 18 months. Okay, they're on programme for 18 months. Actual modules and workshops will be for 15 months. And then we allow 3 months to prepare for Gateway. So they don't fall out of the last module and straight into assessment. It doesn't work like that. So if you add it up, I think you've probably seen on the website it says 21 months. So that's the 15 plus 3 plus 3. That's where we get that figure from. The seminars are generally held around twice a month, give or take how the diary fits. Try to avoid things, to be sensible. Try to avoid things like Easter, Christmas, knowing when people are going to be on leave, or when there's going to be a high level of employees out of a service or out of a building, and so we don't make it. Try not to make it difficult for the employer as well, and we will make these sessions quite regular. So we don't have a term time. It's over 12 months of the year. We usually, the workshop's 3.5 hours. It's between 10 and 1:30, something like that. Regular breaks, lots of breakout rooms, lots of discussion. It's not sitting listening to a tutor, to me, for all the time. It's active participation, and I do expect active participation from all the learners. And I always say to them, if anyone want to volunteer, an answer to that one, and if you don't volunteer, I will volunteer you. It just to encourage them to start sharing and speaking rather than just being passive in their learning. So I think, okay, why now? Well, so we're just introducing this for JGA, and certainly we do listen to employers, and we've been asked to introduce this as well, because town planning as a legislation, as you will know if you're involved in town planning, it's been with us since 1947, and of course it's been around way before that in different forms. But certainly, as this present government has realised, and it's not just this government, there is a need for a skilled workforce of planners and built environment professionals if they are to deliver their ambitions to build homes and infrastructure and deliver economic growth. I mean, if that's what that's what the country needs, then we need these kind of professionals in place. And certainly, if you look at the findings, there was a national survey of local planning authorities undertaken by Verium. And that was government's survey, provides a snapshot of capacity in local planning authorities across England. If you look on this should be live, there's a little red link there. If you're interested in it, or you've not heard of it, it's the Local Authority Planning Capacity and Capability Survey 2025. That should be a live link for you if you want to click on that, just out of interest. But it identified a few things. It highlighted the continued challenges and recruitment difficulties that remain across England. 79% of the local planning authorities affected, and 93% of continue to report skills gaps, particularly in digital planning, developer contributions, viability, and ecology, because planning is so broad and it's so deep in in what it does. Now, of course, this apprenticeship won't solve that problem. It can't. But it will go some way to building the underpinning support of skilled staff within local planning authorities and in private practice as well. Because if you have a planning professional could be at any level, be a planning assistant, or it could be a chartered town planner, and you work as a team. So that the availability of possibility of upskilling existing staff is huge. when you work in admin, in planning, or as a technician, or you may have any other name for them. And certainly when I was young, when I was a planner, that's how I came to it. I started in admin, and I then became a sort of technical support, and then I became a planning assistant, and then I became a senior planner, and then I became head of planning. And that's how it can go. You can grow your own, and it's a great way of doing it, because I was able to use what I knew, and it is the way I trained. I didn't go to university. I did all of mine. Didn't have apprenticeships for this then, but I did all of mine on day release at the local university. But you keep using what you know from the workplace and using your knowledge to improve your skills. And I think, for me personally, just having done it, it's one of the best ways to embed learning. So, is it an investment worth making? Well, I would say yes, because it's evidence. There is evidence that people learn as they go, and an apprenticeship provides structure and support. And on these courses, there's time to learn, reflect, and grow, but it encourages a growth mindset. And as we say, some of my learners, release your inner 4-year-old. Keep asking why, not why do I have to do it, but I wonder what's the reason that we do that. So that it isn't just a job at any level, is that, I understand how that helps somebody else do their job as you work with a chartered town planner, or now I understand how that fits into my organisation's aims and objectives, how it fits into government policies. So it's moving beyond, I'm just doing it, to, that's why it works. So that's it. That's the way that we ask people, we ask our learners to inquire. So do you know why you're doing that? Do you know the impact of why you're doing that? So rather than just knowing something and walking away with all that knowledge in their head, they can apply it and understand the impact that they can have, not only on their own work, and I think that's where they get enjoyment from what they do as well, but it's also that I can impact the rest of my team and my organisation. And then make a difference in the outside world. On this course with us, you'd have professionals to learn from and with, and it's about sharing ideas and questions in a safe space. We do encourage learners to go back to the workplace and go, right, so when we do this, how does that work then? And that's how they learn, and that's how they develop skills. So as I say, certainly on this one, I am a member of the Town Planning Institute, have been since, I tried to work out actually when I joined, something like early 90s, I think it was, a long time ago. And I'll be the tutor and coach for this course. As we say, we have a bit of a saying in JGA, is that you won't find no dusty academics here. Yes, we are academic. We do know how people learn, and we know how to do training. But it's not just about that. We've anybody you come across on these when you train with us, we've been there, seen it, done it. T-shirt, video, the lot. Lots of stories to tell that can give some depth and an explanation to it. And a little later on, we might look at we'll look at the techniques that we use to embed learning. So when we say, who are all these people that we could be trained? Well, we know that, and it's around 50% of town planners, that these figures come from, they're supported by the RTPI. 50% of town planners work within local government. Borough councils, county councils, unitary authorities, combined authorities, national park authorities, and I think there's more mayoral authorities as well. Anyone who's identified as a local planning authority, LPA. But also, obviously, central government departments, those working on NSIs, which is the nationally significant infrastructure. So you get the transport, energy, those kind of areas of work. So 50% of them are there. But there's also those around about another half of the figure of town planners work within the private companies, and these are, you can find them, and this list is not endless: house builders, infrastructure construction, housing associations, renewable energy contractors and suppliers, telecommunications, planning consultancies, environmental bodies, consultancies, and charities. I ever came across one where planning knowledge was very valuable. One was the RSPB, and a charity, because they have their own objectives, and all these things often collide in the planning arena. So a knowledge of planning and what planning is and why decisions are made the way they are is useful for any aspect. Now, I may digress a little, but if you go back years and years ago, probably when I first started in planning, planners lived and worked in councils, and they were known locally as the "you can't build that there" brigade. We were the ones who stopped developments. We were not popular very often, working in development control, but that's no longer the case, because no matter which side of the coin that you work on, whether you are a local planning authority or you are a private company sort of initiating chances or opportunities for development, we actually want the same thing. So we need to understand how each other works and what our needs are in order to get the right development in the right place. And that's how we will grow as a country. That's how we grow. So yeah, we neither want to, as the phrase used to be, neither of us really want to annoy or destroy. We all have to live here on this planet. We're not in Dubai, we're not building land. So land is a finite source. So we need to get the right thing in the right place. And that's once you understand each other, it's not about giving in, but it's about, there can be negotiation, but it's understanding each other's parameters and about what is on the table and what can't be negotiated. But in the end, you have the right thing in the right place quickly. And there has to be some for developers as well. They are obviously developing for a need, and it is that if they understand where they can and where they can't, it stops spurious planning applications, it stops appeals, it stops enforcement. Not entirely. You always still get some, but it will help reduce it. So working as a team and not being afraid of each other is a great way of seeing planning. And that's why for this course, we're not just saying, oh, it's only for local government bodies, for the LPAs. No, there's private developers are also really in there, and we can each learn from each other. And that's why on the Trailblazing group for RTPI, it included both sides. And that I think is we walk away with a different view. And if we see each other's view, then we do end up with a better understanding of how to work together. Okay. I said I digressed, didn't I? And still on the word apprenticeship. Okay. Don't let the word apprentice put you off. Again, if you're as old as me, then you might think, oh, apprentice, that's 16-year-olds. Well, no. And certainly there's a minimum age for apprenticeships, which is 16, but there's no maximum age. And if this figures here come from the DFE Apprenticeships Academic Year 24-25, and you can see that the green bit at the bottom are those who are over 25. It's at least, well, if not more than 50%, and it's been quite constant, but it's growing. And other courses, we've got learners, from some of the late 50s, and why not? That's down to the employer. As an employer, if you decide that they are going to have, be actively employed and they have got these skills and you're willing to invest time in them, then we were happy to take learners of all ages. And actually, it's really good sometimes to get mixed age groups because they come with different experiences. And when the learners share this, and there's a lot of sharing, is that, oh, you've been around for more years than I have. Okay, so how does that all work? What do you remember? And so it's good to often have mixed groups. So please don't let the fact this has the word apprentice on it put you off training anybody who is over 20 and over 21. And yeah, so I say, just please don't be put off, but we've got lots of examples of where older learners have stayed. And of course, people are working longer. So the apprenticeship journey. So it tends to start from initial assessment and onboarding. Now that's before they get to me, generally. That's our sales and engagement team. This is a very well worked out system. We get a lot of feedback from our learners that say that it's, and the managers say it's easy to understand, and everybody gets on board the course, their right course in the right place, at the right time, I should say. Then the 18 months is the on-programme learning. Remember, that's 15 months of taught modules plus an extra 3 months. And then that leads them to something called Gateway. Gateway is the division between being with us on programme, but then before they go into assessment. Now, just say that, as I said, up to 6 months. We have no evidence to say that they will use the 6 months, but they have to be allowed 6 months. But in most cases, so any other endpoint assessment, apprenticeship assessment organisation, they don't take the 6 months, but it's there. Okay, so there's something about the learning journey. Some of this is putting together what I've said earlier. So we have the seminars, the workshops, some small group seminars, and facilitated by people who've done it, who've done this job. They at the bottom line there, we've got this apprenticeship assessment preparation, roundtable workshops, and regular one-to-one coaching. Now the roundtable workshops it's largely things like group coaching, but also it's where learners are invited to influence the agenda. And sometimes you can call these peer learning groups. It's about asking them the learners to say, well, okay, you've learned this, so how are you applying it? And it's sharing with others. How do you do that? Oh, really? Because we can learn so much from each other, and it's about brainstorming solutions to common challenges, and they can offer each other constructive feedback. It's facilitated by me, but it was about this. It's led. I encourage them to lead it and say, so what are the issues? Because often the block to learning is, I'm the only one who has this problem. Now, if they speak up, they realise that everybody else has had the same problem, so let's talk it through. And that's just the way that they can develop and then feel confident in the work that they do. So it's about engaging with them to ensure that they are understanding what it is that they are learning. And that's what we say when we talk about knowledge, skills and behaviours. Knowledge, and this may sound odd for this English language, knowledge is not is knowing. It is not understanding. And we lead them to, okay, you know this, but now we need to know that you understand it. Because in order to do it, the skill, you have to understand what it is you're doing. And that's the journey that we take them on. So knowing is not enough. They have to understand it. And so it's developing them. And we do that as well with the regular one-to-one coaching with someone like myself. And the one-to-one coaching is also with a manager. We usually say line manager, but it doesn't need to be direct line manager, but it's somebody who has taken on responsibility for the learner during their apprenticeship. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a line manager. We develop with them this thing called a workplace development plan. And again, this involves the learner and their manager. And apprenticeships are very tripartite, is that we are all invested. JGA promises to train you and help you understand and prepare for assessment. The learner promises to learn and apply and go and end up in endpoint assessment or apprenticeship assessment. And the manager, or on behalf of the employer, promises to support them and enable them, the learner, to engage and be able to develop a skill and develop them as themselves in the workplace and better produce the goods on time. So the learner isn't on their own, not just, well, there you go, you're on a course, I'll see you at the end. No, we're with them all the way, but we do need an employer representative, which is generally, as we say, the line manager. But we also do quarterly progress reviews. These are formal reviews with the apprentice and the manager to monitor progress and provide support. Slightly pastoral at times is a view of that one, but it's a very holistic view of a bit of a catch-up of all these elements together. How's it all going? Any blocks or breaks? How are you doing? How are you growing? So that's where the conversation goes with that. We do provide resources for self-study, so not all the learning is done in the workshop or the seminar. We say, okay, now go and find out. Go and research this yourself. Go and read that. But also we also encourage them to do self-study. So we don't. The only learning is going to come from what we give you. No, go and inquire, and that helps with learners to develop researching skills, which is what they need. Identify the problem, go and find out the answer. And it culminates there in the apprenticeship assessment. So the curriculum, you may have come across this on our website. There's 8 of them, 8 modules. So they've got introduction to town planning. Oh, this is fun, looking out of order. Town planning policy and legislation, national and local policy considerations, project management, casework, mapping and data in planning support, stakeholder engagement, and yeah, but last but not least, professionalism, ethics and continuous development. The last one there is hugely important in professions, and this is what I said about the town planning assistant is you developing a profession, and it's about what are the ethics and the view of, because this is RTPI accredited, is about this continuous development. So these 8 modules incorporate the 16 duties from the standard. They've got a number, they've got a name to each module, but they're not standalone. They're not just delivered on their own. We do blend them. So as I said earlier, roughly there'll be 2 half-day seminars per month, 1 individual skills coaching session every 5 to 6 weeks, with additional availability as required. These with our apprentices, we will, we focus on the individual, because one size does not fit all. And so what do you need? So we have a basic minimum, and then we'll go, okay, what else do you need? How can we best get additional support for you? Now, sometimes it can be through someone like myself, a skills coach, where they may need some further work to understand what they've been asked to do. But also we always encourage employers to provide learning mentors, because some learners will learn better in their own context. They can't connect the two. So in order to grow, we go, oh, in my workplace, this is what happens. Great. But that's how they will learn, and that's fine. So we always look for, anybody who needs additional coaching for that. So as I said, we have the round tables and assessment workshops, and the learner progress review every quarter, and the development plan agree with the skills coach. The development plan, what that is about is, okay, so you've learnt the knowledge, you've discovered the knowledge from the workshop. So where's that in for you in your job? How are you? Is it something you already do? If not, where can you be where can you plan to be to develop that skill? And that's obviously needs the conversation to be with the line manager or a manager, because as I said at the very, very start, if it's not in somebody's job description at the moment, where can they be to get it? Maybe if things like site visits. If they don't do site visits, so how will you as an employer enable that? Because clearly we couldn't do that, because you are the employer. There is no on-programme assessment. This is because it is, as it used to be called, end-point assessment. It's assessed at the end. But the portfolio completion will be achieved through post-seminar module work. So there is some form of review, we tend to call it, as we go along, to check that the learning is there and that the skills are there. And the knowledge can be assessed in many different ways, not just assignments. There will be some written work, but there'll be usually in things like reports. So there could be assignments. They'll be asked to develop a PDP, professional development plan, to be asked to do SWOTs, learning, or CPD is another one, but also through recorded discussions. These are called PDs, professional discussions, where it will be, okay, so tell me what you understand by this. So we prep for it so that there's someone, the learner gets used to talking to somebody to explain how they understand something, not just repeating it because they've read it somewhere. That also cuts out any opportunities for heavily used AI, which is we do cover that in the academic terms. Is that certainly the assessment organisations as well do not allow AI. You can use AI to do your research, to formulate your ideas, but you can't just produce using AI. And we do have standards on that one. And the skills we've done through work-based evidence, largely, and on this course, largely produced through casework. So it won't be duplicating things. So show me you can do that, show me you can do that in individual ways. Okay, the casework is putting all of this, all your knowledge and your abilities together and show me how you've done that. And that would be then evidence of a skill because you've produced it and it's real. Also be required to do presentations, live or recorded, and witness testimonies. This is when we talk about the strength of the manager, because the witness testimony is largely done by managers. Managers in the workplace will know when a behaviour or a skill has happened, and they'll be able to support it and go, yeah, actually that has happened. That also helps when there's anything to do with confidential information that has to be so heavily redacted that it needs support to say actually the learner was involved in this and did do it. So it's a balance there, but largely the witness testimonies will some support skills, but mostly they support behaviours. Okay, so it talks there about the at the end when learners are assessed. This is unfortunately this is a photo put on here, and it came from a TQ UK who haven't updated their documents yet. You'll find this endpoint assessment is still hanging on. It only changed last year. It's now AA. You'll see it as that, but before it was known as EPA. This comes from their guidance, and so it's for this course it consists of 3 assessment methods, 3 components: a knowledge test, a professional discussion underpinned by a portfolio, and a project. Okay, so how does all that happen? Well, it's the knowledge test is basically everything's done online. The knowledge test consists of 20 multiple choice questions completed in 60 minutes, and 15 of the questions are knowledge-based and 5 are scenario-based. There's a professional discussion underpinned by the portfolio of evidence. That lasts for 60 minutes, and the apprenticeship assessor will ask at least 8 open questions. And then there's a project. This is a significant and defined piece of work that has a real business benefit and is conducted in the form of a report with a word count of about 4,000 words. Now, the learner doesn't do this before they get into assessment. They do it after they've gone through Gateway and they're actually in assessment. They're told that, yes, your project, you're okay to work on it, and then literally the clock starts and they have 8 weeks to complete and submit it. Yeah. Now, there is guidance, and I don't know if I've got it on the next slide, but the occupation of the town planning assistant is based in the public or private sector. The project acknowledges that, and there's guidance from TQ UK about what you can and what the kind of thing you can do as a project. So it's quite wide scoping, and it does offer the opportunity for, I work for an LPA, local planning authority, or I work in private practice. You don't have to work only in development control, basically in a council. So there's quite a few subjects you can use. So benefits of apprenticeships, well, is that training provided externally. You don't have to do it. You employ the apprentice. Someone else, provides the additional training and support. The training is paid for through government funding, and the emphasis is on applied knowledge, skills and behaviours. I said before, not one and done training sessions. It isn't a sausage machine. Yeah, we just process people to the end. Is that it's all about applying this knowledge, this understanding. So for that reason, I said before, the modules are not standalone, and the apprenticeship is designed for holistic development and assessment, because that's what the project is at the end at assessment. That's what the discussion's about. Not tell me everything you know on subject. It's show me what you understand. And then the project is, okay, now you've shown me what you can do. And that's how these are assessed. Yeah, well, as I said before, this tripartite support is that employers do have responsibilities. Learners must be employed for the duration of the training and assessment. The salary is paid for by the employer. You will come across, if you've not looked at apprenticeships before, something called off-the-job hours. Can be quite confusing, but actually it's easy at the end. Although someone did describe to me, it's a little like trying to explain the offside rule. You either get it or you don't. But we provide lots of support on that one. But they have to log these hours. It used to be 20% of learners' time, but it's a minimum of 6 weeks. So if they're on a reduced working week, then it has to be, well, it works at about 6 hours a week. They can do more. But over the whole of the apprenticeship, in order to get into it, final assessment, they have to have accumulated 527 of these hours. And these hours can be made up through the seminars, the workshops, the work that they're doing to develop their like the module work. So there's lots of times that we can collect this, but they will also have to find some time for themselves. The line manager support with learner progress reviews, skills coaching sessions and portfolio development. We really do rely heavily on managers being engaged and turning up to these meetings, because it really helps the learner. They can get quite isolated if that doesn't happen. Final bit, which is where I think my colleague will chip in, because he understands, and this I don't particularly, but how does this funding work? And there it is. But basically, if you have a wage bill of over 3 million per year, training is fully funded. Otherwise, you pay 5% of the total cost, which I think for this one is, I think, about £600. I think you'll nod at me in a minute, won't you, Richard? But you can apply for levy transfer from organisations with an underspend to cover this. But remember, so the apprentice's salary is the responsibility of the employer. On that note, questions? Have I stunned you, or you've got loads of questions for me? I don't know which one it's going to be. So I hope you learned something from it. Maybe something you might reinforce it. Oh, yeah, I knew that and I knew that. Or I may have told you something completely different. But please do feel free to ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, if you can use the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah.
And
or raise
questions.
Or raise a hand.
Just raise a hand, yeah.
Right. Richard, did I get it right with the funding?
Well, let me just double check.
Thank you.
I'll have a look on the Skills England website, which is one of about 60 tabs I have open at any one time. So the way funding works is, for those who don't know, I think I've had a quick look at who's attending, and I think pretty much everyone is from large or medium-sized councils or similar. Let's have a look. So Town Planning Assistant funding is set, yes, that's of £12,000. So if you're not a levy payer, you would pay £600 to JGA for that, and the government will cover 95% of the training fee.
Thank you. Right. I've got that right with my CSE 1 maths. There we are. If not, I can manage that one. But I can see a question. It's coming up somewhere. Where are we? Click on the right box. Oh, why isn't that loading? Can you see that, Richard? Oh, here we go. Is this set? Oh, that's a good question. I should have said that. Thank you. Set start dates or roll on, roll off. Yeah, we start. We don't have, like universities have, a start date of September or January. No, it's if there's enough people to make a cohort, we'll go. Won't we, Richard?
Yes, I think
Thank you.
it's probably going to be springtime and autumn, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah. So
I
we're
know
trying.
you,
So we're trying to aim. Sorry, because you, Richard. We're trying to aim for to start this first cohort, end of April as a date. If we get enough interest, then that's when we'll start. But I say it's in other apprenticeships that we do, it is quite a roll on, roll off one. But when there's a need, we'll do it. Another question there, Becky. This first part, will the presentation be shared? We were talking about that earlier, and I think the answer to that is yes, but I wasn't quite sure how we were doing it.
yeah, we just publish following the meeting. I just publish the presentation. It goes to everyone who attended.
Okay, right. Have any apprentices in water companies currently or previously? Well, I think we have on other courses, because this is the first time we're doing the town planning one. That was for Alice. I'm just trying to be really quick questions here. So we have worked with quite a few of the infrastructure companies before on different apprenticeships, but not necessarily on this, because we haven't done the planning one before. What's the other one question we've got? I saw another question. It's in the chat.
In terms of Melissa's questions, there is a minimum residency requirement to have been in the UK for 3 years before being able to get hold of apprenticeship funding. I actually had somebody who was in South Africa and had to wait a year to start their apprenticeship because they'd only been here for 2. So there is that requirement under the funding rules.
Yeah, and then you have to live in the country, live in England at least 50% of the time, I think is the other one as well.
During the programme, you have to be resident in England specifically for working in England for 50% of your role. Yeah,
because we have had that issue with people who actually work in Wales. When we worked with Severn Trent, actually, no, that wasn't Severn. Who was that we worked with? DEFRA. That was DEFRA. Becky, yeah, at the moment, I believe there's only one EPAO, which is TQ UK. Yeah, of course, as it becomes more popular, I think other EPAOs will pick this up. But it's been quite I think, a niche market for many of them, and so they've stayed away. But I think others will come up. Becky's still typing. Becky's still typing. Anybody else got anything else they want to ask? I mean, one thing I was going to say is that at the start is that one of the attractions that we find for offering these seminars wholly online, and we were doing this way before COVID, is that it makes it more accessible for learners across the country, and particularly for and this came out in this capacity and capability survey as well, is that with the best will in the world as a local council, if you don't have a provider nearby, you're going to lose a learner for almost like 3 days in order to get them to training and back again, and of course the cost of the supporting the learner while they're travelling to or staying somewhere is not covered by the levy. So it really can wallop your training budget considerably. And if you're again in a small authority, you are taking somebody out of an active role. So those left in the office have to sort of absorb the workload, and so it just becomes untenable. Whereas with this, we don't take learners away all day. We take them away for half a day, and literally online. They can do that from an office, from a meeting room. They can do it from home, wherever you're happy that they work from. They don't have to be in an office for us. So yeah, but again, that I think is one of the attractions we've found with the other apprenticeships, is that it's very accessible. If you've got Wi-Fi, you can train. And I live in a very remote area. If a learner completes this level 4, would they then be ready to study for the RTPI chartership? Good question, Sharon. That just also reminds me is that because this is RTPI accredited, there's different levels of membership of the RTPI, and any learner would be eligible for student membership, which is free. We would just enrol them through the RTPI themselves. That would give them access to all the training and all the resources that the RTPI offers. So that's free access to that. This isn't a progression course, as in you finish one and you immediately will be eligible to start the other, but you'd have to. I think you have to do apply still for the level 6 or 7. Remember now, for the Chartered Town Planning course. But generally, that was exactly the route that I took. Is that if you're working, you have to to evidence that yes, you've done the course, but also you've been working and you've got a portfolio of evidence for yourself to say, I've been working and building up my skills so that now I'm eligible to start on the Chartered Manager, on the Chartered Town Planner course, and that's a generally known route, but it's not automatic. You obviously have to be working in it to do it.
There's a question here of whether we've worked with any water firms. I know that we've worked with Northumbrian Water for one.
Yeah.
That's about it. But we have worked with water firms before, and I don't know if Centrica also do water, but they're a very large utility organisation. They're one of our bigger clients.
Yeah, as I said, we've worked with other utility companies. I work with the gas one, the gas safe upstream. That was where I learned about upstream and downstream gas. I'd never heard of the expression before, but I soon learned about that one. So yeah, the infrastructure sort of organisations, health and safety was another one. It's not just about councils or government departments. It's really quite varied. Okay, can't see any more questions coming in at all. So it is 11:52. Richard, what do you want to do? Can we say, is that it now?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, marvellous.
Thank you very much.
As you took my first webinar. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you to my colleagues for supporting me on this one, and thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions, please do come back to us. I can see somebody typing, but no, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Very informative. Thank you. Very useful, interesting. Oh, good. I like that. Like to know what's going on. Thank you. I say, anybody got any questions? I think you'll pick up our contact details off Richard, or the invite that you've got, and that it'll soon find me if you want to ask me anything. Okay, hopefully see some of your learners with us fairly soon. Looking forward to starting the course.